This is the Red and Lover Show with me, Josh Everton, Andy Simcox, Craig Wood, and Alan Smith. We are back after a week off to review this season, which ultimately ended at the Tough Sheet Stadium after a win against Bolton, but on aggregate a 5-4 loss. We're going to discuss how we think the signings have gone this season, how the one manager we had for nearly 98% of the season did, and also how the board have done this season as well out of 10. So we're going to be rating out of all them. So make sure to get your comments down below of your ratings of how you think the season's gone as well. So let's get into it. We'll start off with the playing squad then of this season. So out of 10, Andy, where do you sit in terms of sort of the performance this season, signings? Where do you sit of how we've done from the playing staff this season?
It's actually quite difficult, really, because I'd have said something like a 7 or maybe even an 8 for the first half of the season. Post Bolton, it had been about a 1. So we got in the play. We managed to get in the playoffs. So as far as that's concerned, we finished 6th. We could have, with a number of weeks to go, wherever it were, about 6 or 7 weeks to go, we could have finished 2nd, and we threw it away. Really, I don't know if we bottled it or we just threw it away. So I would say for that last bit, and that's the bit that sticks with me. You see, that the fact that it's the hope that kills you. It comes so close and then messed it up. Shocking defending. So I'm going to try and be generous and say a 6, because we did finish 6th. I do think there was some some mitigating factors, that we had some injuries to key players. We had an injury to Luke O'Connell, which did affect us for a while, I thought. And Pines, I thought we'd known that there were difficulties. Everybody knew there were difficulties in the central defence at the back three. I'm not sure why we let some people go out on loan when we needed centre halves, and we let 3 go out on loan. I'm not saying not all, because they can't all play, but that confused me a little bit. That we finished up. We brought 2 in. Josh Earl, I thought, started really, really well, and at side of Donovan Pines, I thought we looked as though we could have solved it. We could well have solved it, and then in that respect, it fell apart because Donovan got injured, so we were out for season, and having sent out 3 on loan, we finished up back with Jordan Williams playing at the back and into centre half. Don't care what anybody says, he's not a centre half. So that will, for me, were very, very disappointing. I think in the summer we signed a lot of players for the future. Whether they'll do it in the future or not, I don't know. But a lot of players for the future. I had a lot of high hopes for such as Andy Dallas, because I thought he might come good, and who knows, he might. But he's gone straight at it. Some good movement early on in the season, I thought, when he got on the pitch, but weren't showing it. So there were too many that were like, I want to say, I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but hopeful punts, trying to get hoping that a bit of a scattergun approach that let's hope some of it sticks, and it didn't. Lapata being injured when he were playing particularly well, I thought, were just such a shame, but. We just got caught out. 3 defenders out on loan. I'm not saying they'd have made a massive difference, but I think at least one of them might have done. And we defended woefully during the Bolton match at home, when Bolton pulled it back, when we could have looked at being second. It was woeful defending after that, just woeful. We were conceding goals for fun, and it's just that was just ridiculous, I thought. So 6 out of 10. And I think I'm being generous, but could have been more, could have been less.
No, I think there's a good point there in which you said. I'm just looking at the players we'd signed sort of pre-first game of the season. Roberts, Killip, Waters, O'Keefe, Kieran Lofthouse, Lapata and Dallas, which O'Keefe was barring Liam Roberts, O'Keefe was the only one that featured much last season. So I think it's a valid point in terms of playing staff. Al, what about you? Where do you sit with it in terms of sort of the team and players of last season?
Well, one of them wanted it. We lost everybody, didn't we? Start at the season, keeper and three defenders. So it was a big rebuild. No pre-season. Everything were cancelled. And as pre-season, I mean, we won first game 7-0 against Port Vale, but I think for the first month and a half that were our pre-season. So to be honest, we started off on back foot. Up to Christmas, we were doing all right. And then it all changed again. We got players in, and Pine got injured, and we're still hanging in there. We're still hung in. We're still up in top six. I don't think we moved. Yeah, at times boring football. We're playing with squad, and not nice to watch, and not getting fans behind them as much. And then we go to Bolton, and it goes down. Hell, doesn't it? I mean, I think from January window, with players there who don't want to play for a shirt. You got Herbie Kane, you got Devante. Uh, Goals had seized up for him, hadn't he? He wasn't scoring goals for us like he was scoring for fun. And a lot of changes happened. We didn't have, I don't think we had a settled back three. And it was tough. I mean, we lost one of his game at Easter Monday, Burton away, and but Burton come back at us then, didn't they? I think we only just managed to get over that line at Burton, and then yeah, it's just one of them. I mean, I'd got him at about 8 before Christmas. I thought we're doing squad were good, and then all of a sudden after that, when we didn't win many more, and after Easter Monday, 5 for me, we just bombed.
And I think you're right. That it did seem sort of after a certain point that it's that Bolton game. It just seemed to really, really stop us in his tracks, which is just so frustrating for me. And as you mentioned, sort of Donovan Pines as well of coming in. It was we'd pinned all his hopes on him to sort of be the one that's going to be the stalwart defender that we'd been crying out for the first half of the season, and then to lose him after what 4 or 5 games.
And 2 goals scored and all, Josh.
Exactly, exactly. So two key goals as well in doing that as well is not a threat on both ends of the pitch, which a massive, massive loss. Craig, what about you? Where do you sit in terms of the players?
Um, I'm gonna put us at a 5. Season of individuals rather than teams than as a solid team. It seems like players had showed for some games, not showed for others. Yeah, Devante first 6 months scintillating, last 6 months non-existent. Right wing back were a constant thorn in his side. We knew it were an issue, and it never seemed to get dealt with throughout the whole season. We couldn't figure out a back line that. The thing that annoyed me most about is we were sacrificing our formation to make sure we were defensively solid, and we weren't defensively solid at all. We had five. We played at five with 5 at the back. I'd rather us just go right. We can't defend. Ditch it. Let's go with a 4 at back and put more bodies up top and see if we can outscore opponents. And we did do that. The one time we did do that, we won. So take from that what you will. But I mean, Luke Connell being out for so long at the start of the season, that was a massive issue. We seemed to improve a lot when he come back in, which was after I made the comment that we were going to drop like a stone, which I think propelled us a little bit. We did eventually drop like a stone. It just, a bit longer than I expected. But I said in November that Devante were outscoring his XG, and that once he stopped taking chances that he shouldn't score, that he'd stop scoring. And he eventually did stop scoring, and that caused us huge issues. We struggled with all the top 6 teams, I think, feel like all season, but like I said, defending again, we couldn't defend a lead. Everybody's saying, "Oh, we broke records coming back from losing positions." That's nothing to be proud of. You shouldn't go behind in the first place. They have to come back. I thought Collins, his substitutions were horrendous at times. They seemed very regimented. Cole stayed on a lot of matches when he should have been brought off instead of McAtee. I think that probably might have cost us a few points by the end of the season. If we'd have took off the right players at the right times, it's all great said in hindsight. But I think a few of his substitutions were just plain wrong. I think so solely the team, it were a team of individuals all season, and yeah, 5 out of 10. I think if they'd have been if they'd have all pulled in the same direction, I think we could have probably done a little bit better. But now, I think too many players didn't show up in many of the fixtures.
Yeah, I think it's for me when the pressure came on. Like we had pressure at one point in that season, which was second half against Bolton. They were the first time that we were actually in control of his own destiny in a way, and we couldn't do it. We crumbled after 60 minutes, and then that really just started falling apart slowly but surely. I don't think we ever really recovered from that. For me, it seems to be one of them where it plagued us for a while. I would say I agree to an extent that we struggled against top six sides, especially that first half of the season. First half of the season, we were right. Anyone above us were right off against them. But I think we got better throughout the season. I think you could see a bit of progression up until Bolton at home, and then it just seemed to again just fall apart slowly but surely. There were like a period of 4 or 5 months that were all right then, and then it just fell apart. But I agree with you, Craig. That coming from behind stat seemed like almost a big weight off our shoulders that we finally did it. We've come from behind.
Everybody were high fiving about it.
Yeah.
It's like, what you be happy about that?
The
we have to
reason why
lose to win.
Yeah, the reason why it's not happened for so long is because we'd get in front the season before and not have to deal with it. So it's a year of not having to deal with it, and then the season before that we were terrible and just lost. So that's why it was 600 odd days, almost 2 years that we'd not done it for. And it's like, well, yeah, we look at 2 seasons we had. That's why we've not come from behind at any point, which almost a false stat for me. That
I think that's exactly what Al was saying all season, that we were a 50-50 team. Like, we'd show up for half a game, and we'd always only show up when we were behind. It's like, why? We had players that were would be great for some games and then completely absent for other games. Like O'Keefe would show up one day and then not show up the next game, and same with Cadden. And you had same with Devante Cole, same with Herbie Kane. Numerous players that had show up some games and other games, and it wasn't like they were showing up against bad teams and then playing worse against good teams. It was like they could play immense against Peterborough and then be absent against Carlisle. It was just nonsensical. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't figure it out. But,
yeah, almost like
that's
a
why
lack. There was just a lack of 7 out of 10 players. I think throughout the season, there's a lack of 7 out of 10 performances every week in, week out. You're getting this. I think there were too much 9s one week, 3 the next.
Yeah,
of too much up and down. I agree with that. Right. 5 out of 10 for you, Craig, as well. I think fairly. I'm shocked that we're so almost agreeable then on that. I thought there might be a little bit more variation between that. Manager-wise, Andy, where do you sit in terms of managing the season? Because we've already discussed a little bit of sort of the context when Al brought it in of no pre-season in terms of that. The signings in which did come in went out on loan before the transfer window even. People we brought in went out before the window even shut. And there was a distinct lack of centre halves for the first half of the season. Donovan Pines came in January. They got injured, and then we were back to square one and things like that. So Neil Collins had quite a bit to contend with, but as Craig said, sometimes too regimented in terms of playing certain formations and substitutions and that. So I think this could be an interesting one.
Certainly. I mean, we'll just talk about Collins rather than about the board. He came in late. It took it, when Michael Duff, I think he sideswiped everybody, including the board. But I'll talk about that when we come to discuss the board and their situation, pluses and minuses, if you like. But as far as he's concerned, he came in late. I didn't mind him coming in. I thought if he's not experienced, but we were told that he were feisty, that he played a certain type of football, which is what we've been used to, which is get in the face, get at him. And in truth, for a couple of games we did that and looked good. But then, even when we did that, I think it was Cambridge away we did that, and we looked really good. And we did like you've said, we did it away against Peterborough, did it away against Pompey, and look good, particularly the Cambridge game, look good. But then we revert. You think, when you know it's successful, why have we reverted back to crab football? We were lulling ourselves into complacency and idleness, just passing it across the back. And I'm going to assume it's not just the players. I'm going to assume that that's what they're told to do: keep possession, move it from side to side, try and create some openings, pull the opposition onto us. It were boring. It was just boring, and it's saying something. And they seem to go at Barry Cotter, because, as I've said many times, he's mercurial. I think he's mercurial to his sen. But when Barry Cotter is probably the one player that's going to get you off your seat shouting, "Go on, Bazzer," it tells you something, that it was just boring. Herbie Kane, I think he went to half a season without passing it forward at times, and he's a decent player, not very quick, but a decent player. But it were always coming to receive ball from the centre halves and then passing it back to them. It was just boring, and it caused us lethargy. We slowed down just by doing it. And when teams came at us, we had no idea what to do. So I'm going to put that down. To what the coach wanted, because if it's not what he wanted, why did he keep doing it? And why did he keep playing the players that were doing it? If you're going to have such a Herbie that's doing it on his own batter, not because the coach wanted him to do it, don't pick him. Pick somebody else. But he didn't. So I thought that was most disappointing, because we know we could do it. We could do it because we showed in a few matches, not always for the full match, as Al says, a game of 2 halves, Al, that he could do it. And, away from home, we had a really good record until towards the end, when we just couldn't win no matter what. We had a really, really good away record. But a rubbish home record generally, which is a bit topsy-turvy. So that, for me, that has to be about how you set up, so that more defensive-minded setup, which proved our undoing at the end, because we played defensively without being able to defend, which was just an absolute nonsense for me and with Craig. If you can't defend, and we showed that we couldn't defend those last number of matches, stop trying to and go at it. Just go at them. Yeah, just go at them. So I'm putting that down to the manager. I think the crowd went quiet. I don't think the crowd didn't get them going and up the players, but it doesn't surprise me that much. We've railed a few times about try and get behind him, but it was boring. And if you sat watching, if there's no to get you off your seat or got excited, I know it's a two-way thing, isn't it? You want the players to bring the crowd up, and the crowd to bring the players up. Get behind the players at the toughest of times. But it weren't that they were just awful. It was boring. I have no problem with possession-based football as long as there's a purpose to it. But what we were doing, pass across the back, and then lob it forward somewhere. Get your head on that, and Devante Cole, and he couldn't, because he's not that sort of striker. So just get ball away. I thought it was shockingly poor. And we did nothing to deal with it. Nothing to deal with it. Plan B, Plan C, wherever lack of a plan. And that, for me, that's down to the coaching. Boring football for a good bit of it. And we know we've got some talented players. That's it, really. 5. And I'm being really generous. Because we finished 6th.
Are expecting something lower than a 5 then after that.
Well, it could well have been below 5. There were a couple of good games that I thought, we've turned corner, we can do this. And, we got to a position, remember, where we all thought, there were a number of people saying about the boring football, but just before the Bolton game, after we'd done Derby, and just before the Bolton game, in fact, during the Bolton game, Neil Collins has won us over. So many people that didn't want, he's won us over. And as soon as we said that, it bombed. And it was like I understand that it can get you down if you, gift 2 silly goals away towards the end of a match. So like we did against, in the league match against Bolton at home. But players that have got something about them, that have got that grit, don't let it affect them and think, oh, that's blown it for us. They want to come back and show some grit and get back on with it, and they didn't. It was like, oh, it's knocked us off us track, it's knocked us sideways. Well, you shouldn't let it. You're professional footballers. You should come back and really want it even more, and they didn't. They didn't. They stood about, oh, they've scored another goal against us. If I'd have been playing in midfield or up front, I'd have been furious with our defence in the last 6 weeks, because it was just every time somebody attacked, we were shipping goals, and it was just poor to see, including the goalkeeper, who started really well, and finished weakly, I thought. But there you go.
No, I
So
agree.
best of 5, because we finished 6th.
Yeah, I think that's the thing when you sort of talk about everything you've just said there. There's also the other side of we still got in the playoffs and still actually almost at the end of it, when our season came to an end, we could have got ourselves at Wembley somehow, which I think a lot of fans would have looked around and gone, how are we here? Like, how have we got here? Especially given, as Al's mentioned, we've struggled from Easter Monday and that Bolton away game as well. Al, what about you? Where do you sit in terms of Collins this season? Because there's no real point. We can't really rate Devaney, given that he had 3 games and
One lost, one draw, one, didn't he? So
yeah,
Martin in 10 days. Going on to Collins, up to Christmas, I were up there getting him an 8 because, we're going away from home, we get winning games. We weren't losing, one way. We were doing well at home. We were rubbish against big clubs. We couldn't win a game, could we? And we didn't make Oracle a fortress, and yet it was crab football. It was like I got crinked neck big time. We were going. It was like watching a game of tennis at times. So I got him up there. I thought he was doing a decent job with what he got available to him. And then the day, as we say, he don't pick players. It's the spreadsheet what picks the players, and he's got to work with who he's given. So I thought he'd done a good job. And then January and winter coming, he thought, oh, let's see where it goes from here. And it were yet again, we didn't see from him many changes when it went pear shaped, did we? It was much of a muchness, and it were like for like substitutions. And we were playing 45 minutes good, 45 minutes bad. We never got more. I think in that period, more than 60 minutes of football. And then all of a sudden it bombed into it. It changed against, as we said, against Bolton at home. 2-0 up, cruising through. We should have got 3 points, and we were lucky to get a point from that game and end of the day. And to be honest, for me, Collins, he lost the players for me. The players didn't play. It didn't help. I don't think the players wanted to play for him anymore. I think that's where his last month went. They weren't performing for the coach. So for me, I'll be generous. I'll give him a 6.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, it's almost. I think it's quite hard to almost judge him in a way because, as you've mentioned there, Al, obviously most of the signings were made basically without his input because he signed so late in the window to come in, and he'd not really got pre-season as you mentioned. I think sort of that first month at least of actual league games was like a pre-season for him to actually work out the best 11, and I think he still struggled with it. And when push did come to shove, he almost, to me, there are a lot of chopping and changing for sake of just open something at work rather than a pragmatic approach of let's do this and commit to that. Because yeah, it's just irritating, as you mentioned, Andy, of them few games where we did press. Like Bolton that first half at home, we had Mal playing centre forward every time they had ball coming out, and it worked for us, and we just stopped doing it. And why? It were working. We were winning 2-0. Why have we stopped? Which I do think was a little bit of the coach of saying, let's try and hold on to this now, even though we've proven for first 30 games this season that's not what we can do. No. Craig, what about you? Where do you sit on Neil Collins?
I think he had a bad hand and it to be dealt with in the first place. He come in late, so pre-season was non-existent. Really. So they're the points that actually puts him in a positive light because he did finish in a decent position, better than I expected us to. But throughout the season, they were just. I mean, it come in with a tactic, and it seemed to. The first couple of games were fantastic. We pressed like I've never seen us press, not since Daniel Stendhal, and then we just sacked it off after his first defeat. And then we didn't seem to really press that way again until we played Peterborough away. That was next time I saw us really press like we did on that first game. He come into this team, and I think he had the mentality of we'll draw opponents onto us, and then we'll hit them on the counter, and we'll break fast and fast passing and get through. He had no way breaking a team down that were just going to sit there. Because we come up, every team that played at Oakwell, which is why our home form was so bad, had just sit in two banks of four, and that's it. They didn't press us, and he did not have a clue what to do. His team didn't know what to do, so they just kept passing it around, just expecting them to come on to us, and they never did. I think Blackpool were the prime example. A team like that with a bigger reputation than ours, he expected them to come on to us and expect them to come and try and play us. They didn't. They just sat back, and that confused the hell out of the whole team. And that match, one of the most boring matches I've ever seen. I don't think he got the best out of the players at times as well this season. I do agree with Al. I think they stopped playing for him. I think a lot stopped playing for him a lot sooner than others did. I think the ones I can say that I think stayed with him until end were probably McAtee. I think he played. I think he understood him well. Press conferences as well. He'd never blame the team. He'd always say, "Oh well, we missed these chances. We missed these chances." Yeah, if you look at stats, we had more chances. Look, end of the day, you watch any game of football that we played this season, and it just wasn't entertaining. I don't think not many matches we dominated, probably 3 or 4. Other than that, we're a top 16. We should have dominated a fair amount of games this season, like you see Peterborough do, like you see Portsmouth do, like you see Bolton did. They beat their. We seem to just skim past teams and win by a goal. Amount of games we did that, especially away. So for me, the fact it wouldn't change formation, his regimented subs, I'll give him a 4. I get it with dealt a bad hand. I get that he had to rebuild the defense, but I believe that any good coach can get the best out of the team, no matter how bad that team is. You focus on you focus on what your team's good at, and I don't think we did that. He tried more to nullify our weaknesses than he did to explore our positives. Which we had a great forward line, we had a great midfield, but not once did he think, "Oh, sack that. Then we'll just get more people in midfield and we'll try and dominate from midfield." He always tried to say, "Right, 5 at back, let's try and not concede." And that was his thought throughout the whole season, in my opinion.
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, I'm just looking back now at the beginning of the season, beat Port Vale, lost to Tranmere on penalties in EFL Cup. That Bristol Rovers 1-1 draw, which you were there, Alan, I'm sure from memory. It weren't a great performance, and Bristol Rovers could have well won that game. After
We
that,
were there again, Josh. It was that Cadden scored a great goal, first half 1-0 up, and then second half we're on back foot again. It was substitution what made difference, wasn't it? What come on and changed game, and we could have lost that 3-1, 3 or 4-1.
Yeah.
If you look back at seasons though, how many times did individual quality win us games?
I think
And how many games
did
did we win by a good team performance?
I think even when you mentioned that of it being like individual performance, a lot of that first half was Liam Roberts' individual performance. Like Cheltenham, we won that.
He saved us a
2-0.
lot of points in first half. Yeah,
Won that 2-0, and Liam Roberts 2 or 3 plucks that were
outstanding.
that should have been goals or would have been, and then lost to Peterborough 3-1, Oxford 3-1, beat Wigan but had a man sent off. Beat Cheltenham 2-0. Like results wise, it looks all right, and you look at a season and go, "Yeah, that's all right. We've done all right there, given the context of everything." But as you've all mentioned, it was just boring. It was just a boring brand of football that, as you've all mentioned so far as well, is not really what we want to see as fans and what we're aligned with. It's more of a Russell Martin and Swansea kind of way of playing.
But I do think that's down to the point of not being able to break teams down.
Yeah.
I think the boring football come because he were expecting teams to come on to us. I mean, he's been at Tampa Bay. We are over there. They're all relentless. Every team presses, and I think he come into this league expecting every team to press. So he devised a tactic where we would draw them on, let them press us, and then be able to work round them. But they never pressed, and after that, that was it. We were like, that's it.
Didn't change it.
Show's
though,
done.
Craig.
Mm.
Show's done.
I'm with you,
But
Craig.
we
The
didn't
word-
have players
you
to
talk
change
about-
it, Andy. We didn't have the
Exactly.
players to change it, and that goes down to the
I don't-
spreadsheet.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll get on to that.
I don't know. I thought we showed in some of our matches. I know there were only half matches, most of it. We showed that we got players that can play football, but they didn't do it. You know, partly that, partly it's them, partly I'm suspecting maybe what you said, they didn't want to play for him. It disappoints me that because they're professional footballers and should have some pride if that's the case. But his tactics were poor. And I'm with you, Craig. Try and pull them on and create some space behind them and play it around them. But when it didn't work, don't keep doing it. Just stop doing it.
Eventually.
And you know, like I said, there were a couple of times when we pressed and we looked good pressing. I think, why are you changing from something that's been shown to have worked back to something that clearly isn't? I just despaired, really. So I just think I'm being generous with a 5.
I agree, but there's still a part of me of like the hand he was dealt wasn't great, so I can give him a reprieve for that. But as you mentioned, he had 9 months to rectify and fix these things and to go through, and especially the home form, because it adds up of when you're away, the home team's expected to go and dominate it, even unless it's a massive like disparity. Like, no offense to Carlisle necessarily, but they come from League Two. We were an established, strong League One side. That should be a game that no matter home or away, they're probably going to be happy with a point. But we still made hard work of that away from home, and at home as well.
Yes.
We struggled against them. But it's games like that you expect they're going to sit in and be a bank of. It's going to be everyone behind ball, engage as late as they possibly can. So it's impossible to break them down, and that's something that we should have known, given our stature in League One, that teams are going to come and do that. And it almost backs up the point as well of in the second half of the season when we played the better sides that were in the top 6, that we'd play better against them because they'd also come and try and impose their game on us and not just sit back and listen and try and pick us off on a counter. They'd actually come to try and play against us, as opposed to the sides that are not as good. They're going to come and sit and play for a draw. They're just frustrating.
It didn't make it too easy for teams coming to Oakwell though, because they knew that if they sat back, we couldn't break them down.
Yeah,
They knew our weakness, and that was the point. It was a weakness, and that weakness was down to coaching, and Collins has set up.
How many times, Al, did we pass it across the back? You know, in midfield, when teams sat back, we press it just outside their box. We press it to the right, pass it to the left, pass it to the right, and then we try and put a crossing. The most awful crossing that I've seen for a long while at Oakwell, and it didn't get anywhere. They just passed one way, then other way, then finally put a ball in that were nowhere near anybody.
Best crosses were from long throws.
That was one thing that
Buzzer
really
again.
irked me all season. Of if we're going to play wide and cross it in, then there needs to be almost like a set play type of movement of right when Cadden drives to byline, he cuts it back, aiming for edge at box, and there's someone there. But there were no structure to that either. Just like
There should be one going to front post, and there should be one staying on penalty spot.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's what it should be.
And then stick Adam Phillips on edge at box because if folk comes out, he can drive it.
The
back
amount
up.
of times you'd have
quality.
both of them run into both posts, and then it get cut back to penalty, and then next time it happened, both of them would stay up penalty spot, and they cut it across where the goalkeeper is. It was like, come on, this is school football stuff. Just talk to them. It's like bringing Cosgrove on and then refusing to cross ball in. It just didn't make sense. It's like, come on, it's not hard. Just shout to O'Keefe, said, next time you cut back and pass it to Herbie Kane, you're not going to play another minute of football for me. Get that ball in to that big lanky guy in the middle. That's what you need to be doing.
You remind me
Never
of Big
did
Ange when
Don't hold back, Craig.
I'm not,
I'm
mate.
sick of
End
you
of
holding
season.
back, Craig.
I'm
Say what
done,
you
mate.
think. Come on, Craig. Say what you really mean. Don't hold back like that.
you
It's
reminded
that
me of,
mattress. I'll sell him.
You just want to use your new beat noises. I'm not letting you do it.
That mattress, Andy, what's upsetting him coming downstairs. Sorry, I'm not mentioning that. Sorry,
you remind
Craig.
me of Big Ange then the other week of when he got when he gave someone a telling off for passing ball backwards. I was like, oh, I wish we had someone that had said that. Right.
Was it Neil Warnock that said that Adele to wrapped if anybody passes it in their area?
Yes.
They get a fine.
Yes. If anyone passes it to a Delta,
I love that guy.
they
It's
get
quality.
a fine. Right. I assume this is the one that anyone watching has probably been a little bit more excited for. So we're going to speak about the board. And I know some of you have probably scrubbed all the way forward and missed out the first half. So don't worry, I've already clocked you lot that have skipped the first half of this video. Right. Board rating out of 10, because I think this has probably been the season that we've had the most off-field drama, where we've never had it before. Obviously, we've had a few bits over the last few seasons. The Hex sponsorship one is one that springs to mind. And then obviously this season, the shirts, I don't know, I think they're quite the centerpiece, Al. I think they'll go down in history.
Mythical.
Will the shirts. But
They
obviously
definitely take the eye.
the Fanatics deal though as well, obviously speak about shirts, and the FA Cup, where we got kicked out of that for feeling an eligible player. It's not been the greatest season for the board, who at the fan forum at the beginning of the season said judges by his actions. And I think doing that now, Andy, where do you sit in terms of rating for the board out of 10?
Well, I'll explain why in a minute, but basically a 5. I do think that they were sideswiped by Michael Duff leaving. I don't think I really don't think they expected that. I don't think any of us expected that really after what had been said. So I think that confused it a bit, and I think it caught up. I think it caught him on the hop, and it took a long time, or it felt. I know we want instant success. If a manager leaves, we want another manager next day, and well, I do. And you understand why, because there's always be contingencies, and we didn't seem to have a contingency plan. So that seemed to go on and on and on. And, like now, various names are put forward and get ruled in, get ruled out, and all this. And then they went to Tampa, and it was left the field for me. I'd never heard of him. I knew he played it. Well, I know afterwards that he played at Sheffield United, but I didn't know. We're all a bit late on, and then because of that, there's a rolling thing because of that. He's not involved in signings, so, and I do believe there was a scattergun approach, and that's got to be. When I say the board, I'm also including Khaled, really, although he's not the board, but I'll include him. With a scattergun approach, got a lot of inexperienced players, some that will work out. I think, all right, I think Jack Shepherd will turn out to be a good player. I personally think, but some. I'm not sure they're going to be at the level that we need them to be. So we signed. I was surprised based on the previous year we signed Max Watters, but I thought that might work out. All right, he's got some experience, but that's not worked out. And he started on being played, and then hardly played. I've no idea. I know it was end of last year. I've no idea why we signed Ollie, because he's not been anywhere near anything. Andy Dallas, I thought he might be somewhat, but that hasn't worked out. An absolute debacle, letting people down. With the friendlies, letting people down. I understand. You get a manager. Mitigate it a little bit. You get a manager late, and so he wants to, or coach. He wants to see the players, and he wants to spend some time getting the players up to speed with what he wants. But it means that you're not getting match experience and getting match sharp. And we should not have been cancelling friendlies and cheesing other people off, because it's not a great look. It just don't look good. Just don't look good at all. Oh gosh, the FA Cup were just ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous that could happen. We we're a professional football team. We know things can happen, but why us? Why does it have to be us? So there's that, and they did well we identified a problem centre half. They did really well by signing the 2 centre halves that I thought would make the difference. But what we did is that, as I've said earlier, we let 3 go out on loan. So when McCart got injured and then Pines got injured, we were back to square one, and we got 3 players that were away, 3 centre halves that were away. That if they'd have played instead of the 3 that were playing, I don't know that it'd have been any worse. We'd have conceded goals, but we were conceding goals for fun anyway. So that were unbalanced for me. That were just unbalanced. We got a back 3 with maybe Jamie McCart as as the backup, if you like. Remember, he were injured for a fair bit of it. So that were just a nonsense, just an absolute nonsense. On the plus side, they've been financially supporting the club, but they're having to. Well, they don't have to. Players choose to, don't they? And if you don't get success, you might have to support it even more. If the success, and I'm talking about people going through the door, if that lessens, then it's going to cost more. It's going to cost them more. So, looking forward, I just hope it's, that there's a message there that you can't just do a scattergun and hope, because it's not worked. And then for me, so, that the plus with that. There are also a plus. I know some people will get uptight about it. Me and Al like the lunch club. I think it were a good initiative by Gene Crine. And we may get lunching club and putting it. I thought that were a nice initiative, and it is a nice initiative, bringing a lot of older Barnsley fans together like me and Al, and getting them back to Oakwell and Lempy using Oakwell for something else other than just Saturday afternoon or Tuesday evening, whatever. And I also like the way that we've developed over the season. It's mainly through the people themselves and Julianne, the women's team. I think that were a big bonus. I know some people don't like it, but I don't care. I do. I think it's a great step forward. The communications not been great. It's we talked about when John came in, Flatman came in. We talked about there's supposed to be a fan engagement thing and fans forums and all that. The communications has been note, and I'm not sure what they can say, but they need to say something. We sack a manager with a game to go, and let's be fair, a lot of the fans were booing him and shouting for him to be out, and then complaining when they got him out. So there is that bit. We play a part in that as well. Whether they acted too quickly or not quickly enough, was any like that for me. It's like that. But the communications is poor. And there's been people get stick. People want information. The communications comes out about the flipping luncheon club that me and Al like, and it's like, read the room a little bit. Just read the room and stop feeding into the toxic frenzy that there often is. So we're a professional club. We've got to have some intelligence with that. And then fanatics. I could have cried. I spent 2.5, nearly 3 months writing letters of complaint. It was an absolute debacle. I was disgusted with it, and truthfully, still am. They've got to get their act together for this coming season. And I'll tell you this: if they ain't got a shirt coming out for Father's Day or for the open day, then it's debacle times 2, because it started again. Because FA Cup, we weren't going to win it, but I wanted a shirt. And this became mythical because this got cancelled. It was only because Tracy managed to sort me one out. But it was just ridiculous, with shirts cancelled and strips cancelled right, left, and centre within my family. That's just my family. Shirts coming without the sponsor stuff on, shirts not coming, despite ordering everything on the first day they were available. Then they're saying we can't deliver it because it's out of stock. We ordered it on the first flipping day, and I just thought that was just shockingly poor. Khaled were arguing about it, saying, oh, it's, teething problems. That's not a teething problem. That's incompetence. They're lucky to get a 5 from me.
A 5? I feel like your arguments don't say 5, but
They've propped the club up. There's been some luncheon club. The women's club, the women's team are really chuffed about that. Really chuffed about that. And, they identified the problems at centre half. I know we let some go. but we signed two players, and we signed two decent players to play at the back that could have made a difference. So, and they're only trying to take money out of club. No, they're not. They're putting money into club to keep it going. So,
The football clubs notoriously lose money. There's not a profitable one because of the way in which the money that's involved in it, you don't make profitable. I was always under the pressure that Brentford were almost there, but with the season they went up, they took massive losses because they took the gamble on thingy.
And the last bit, Josh, and I'll shut up and let others talk. The last bit is, as we as fans, we need to get over the toxicity. People like Julian commenting about the women's team, good luck in the cup final, and there's people like, sooner stick pins in my eyes and stuff like that. I mean, if you haven't got out to say, don't say it. If you haven't got out nice to say it, you don't have to say it. The toxicity, particularly on X, Twitter, call it what you want, the Twitterati, the Xerati, they drag people down with them because it's constant. By all means, I didn't say I'm not happy with this, but the abuse and the dragging everybody down, the happy clappers, don't spend a penny, and then they'll complain we don't sign players. We play a part in all that, so they really need to get a grip of that. But the board have got to give the ones that want to support the club, rather than just be fans that actually want to support the club. They need to give us a reason as well.
I think that's one of the key points is people are just looking for that reason, that sort of reassurance that it's going to be better or it's going to be something of value next season as well. Al, what about you? Where do you sit with the board?
It's gone pear-shaped, hasn't it, for me? I mean, the silence is deadly, isn't it? There's nothing there. Even at this stage when we're struggling now to get a gaffer in, and it's a month a day then we start Collins, and there's nothing coming out at club. There's nothing to keep the fans on board, except it's early bird this week. Don't forget to renew your season tickets. Well, fans aren't going to renew season tickets. If you're not being proactive and coming out and letting us know where we stand and what's the situation, then you're not going to put your hard-earned cash into the football club. That's personally for me, and I'm just fed up of this Moneyball setup where it's based on what is it, statistical analysis known as sabermetrics. It's getting players in, trying to make some money, and we need to sort out to get. If we're doing that way, then we need some experience. We need to bridge that gap. We need it all to come together, not just these players who, in a few seasons, will make a few bob on them. We haven't made any money on the ones what we've let go. Devante Cole, have we? Herbie Kane, we've let the contracts come down. So that doesn't make sense to me. If we're letting players go like that, what's the point of having this sabermetrics, this spreadsheet, looking at players to see what value we can get? And yeah, X were a problem. These shirts, letting fans put the money up. We were on holiday, Kate and I, last year, and we bought them on holiday and put money up front. And they've got lots of Barnsley fans putting money in to buy the shirts with no goods. How's that? It's poor. It's poor, and they should have known this. And that's part and parcel of being running a football club, knowing what's out there, knowing the pros and cons. And I don't think they took the fans for a ride. Personally, we should have been better. How can I put it? In January, should have had better players coming in. Neil Collins. We should have had a decent striker, an experienced striker to push on, and we didn't, did we? We got a defenders in instead. So for me, it's a 4. I'm sorry. I know the Luncheon Club, they've done a lot of things to get the elder generation into Oakley, as Andy says, and they did it at Christmas because it was cold and the eating costs to get them to eat a meal in warm environment, and good initiative. I'm not knocking that at all, but it's what field of play we want it, don't we? Want to see on a Saturday, it's the field of play, not in his bellies.
No, I think that's a good point. I think, yeah, the spreadsheet's been a contentious issue for a number of seasons now. I think it's something that it's been used to whack the club a lot, which we've had successful seasons with it. Looking back at the season when we were 3 games away from Premier League, and then we've had very unsuccessful seasons as well of the season that followed it, and sort of building back to that. And I get it to a degree that the club needs a direction regardless of coach. it needs to have an identity and a direction to go. I just think whilst you've got someone in post in that manager position, you also need that synergy and collaboration between the two. And I think sometimes that's mismatch. I mean, you look at the players who signed in the summer, how many actually played this season? The players that signed prior to the first game, 2 played. Actually featured fairly regularly. The rest went out on loan, and didn't really get a sniff of first team football. Probably O'Keefe and Liam Roberts were the 2. McAtee came sort of halfway through the August part of the season. There's not really been signings. And Cosgrove on the last day, Kitchen leaving the last day. Mads went. Bobby Thomas obviously went back to parent club. Brad Collins moved on. They're a hell of a rebuild to do, which that was no surprise because they all went, barring Kitchen, quite early. And it still seems like, as you mentioned, Al, sort of the quality wasn't there from the beginning in the summer as well. So yeah, I think 4, solid mark. Now, Craig, I'm excited for this one. Take it away.
I'm going to give him a 3. I think financially, I think they've managed finance as well. You know, there's a lot of clubs out there that are a lot worse than us. But I think every single thing on the footballing side of Barnsley FC has been handled terribly. Signings, terrible. Beginning every season, we're behind the cuff all the time. It feels like we're catching up to everybody else all the time. Even this season now, no manager, no plan. We're going to go in. We did it. Last season, Duff left, but we saw it coming a month before. That's when speculation started. That's when phone calls should have started going in then. And then you should have had somebody lined up who you liked, and within a week he should have been in. You know, I will give him the dues. When this club was purchased, was pre-Brexit. There is a lot of value in Austrian leagues, German leagues, lower down leagues. There are a lot of good players that can come into the English game and be really good. Brexit happened, and that completely tanked their transfer strategy. And that's in my personal opinion. I've not spoke to anybody, but it was pre-Brexit when we were purchased, and they were talking about fetching in foreign talent. Brexit happened, no longer fetching foreign talent, and now they're going to this spreadsheet method, and they're looking at lower leagues, looking at players that are playing above the standard that they're playing in, right? But there's one problem with that. You're trying to they're playing great against players who are at the standard in the league they're playing in, but that doesn't mean they can jump up to League One standard and do the same thing. You know, that's where it falls flat. It takes a human factor out of everything when you look at spreadsheet only, and not an eye test, no scouting, no going watching the player, no talking to people who've managed him, players who have played with him, and all this stuff. If you're just basically looking at a sheet of paper, it's not a sheet of paper. It's a real footballer. It's a real person who's got family and issues and all this stuff. And for me, that's where it all falls flat. And I think you've seen that in a lot. Like Dallas, it looked great, fantastic when he was playing in his old club, but he couldn't make that translate into the League One. Same with Ollie Shaw. He did great in League One in Scotland, couldn't translate it down here. Max Waters, you know, somebody else who we signed for no. Why? He didn't do great here on loan, so why did we buy him? You know, and it just we're throwing contracts out at players, and we're getting nothing back. We're signing players for money and getting nothing back. We've got to stop letting people run the contract down. Get rid. If you're in there last year, you don't want to sign. Fair enough. Transfer list. Go on. We'll see if anybody wants to buy you. You know, because we've lost a lot of value this season. We've lost a lot of players to free contracts. The whole FA Cup thing. I mean, it just feels like the really naive. That's what it seems like. Financially, you know, they're all mega mind. They're all brilliant with finances. But when it comes down to running a football club and any sort of footballing decisions, they're really lacking. They need somebody in there to tell them what to do, like your Neil Warnock, who's who you could get in as a director of football. Somebody to say, no, don't just go and sign 4 youngsters from there. Yeah, I know you could get a key player for the same value as all them 4, but that key player will be a damn sight better and fetch a damn sight more to the club than them 4 will when you release them on a free in 3 years, because they haven't fulfilled whatever magical potential you think they've got. Or they're gonna. I mean, Jack Shepherd looks like he's going to be decent. Lapata, I don't think is ever going to be above where he is now. There's just so many players. Ollie Shaw's going to end up leaving on a free. Callum Styles, never been same player since we let him go out on loan for some unknown reason. I've never got that. As loan signings are better than as permanent signings. We should be actually trying to permanently sign the players that we're loaning. Because I thought Dodson were good when he come in. McAtee was best player at league, but best player for us this season. McCart was decent at centre back, better than what we'd fetched in. So I don't know. They either need to get help or get gone. One or two.
That's the frustrating bit, Craig, isn't it? That we've appointed a director of football. I don't know about you. I've not heard anything from Mladen at all. So I have no idea what he's doing. He might be doing loads of things, but I have absolutely no idea because we haven't heard that communication. So they've made the right thing. If they don't know enough about football, they've appointed somebody who, as a director of football, director of sport, call it what you want. But I don't know how that's translating into reality.
What I think they're struggling with as well is you go to any Premier League, most Premier League teams, right? Their fan base is loyal to a fault. They will follow no matter what, right? Because of whatever reason. Lower down leagues, you've got to earn the fan base. You've got to earn their loyalty. You've got to earn them turning up every Saturday to watch a game. We're not. I mean, they're not just going to blindly follow. There's other stuff they could be doing. You know what I mean? They're not that big, and it's not that big of a thing in these lower leagues, like going to Stamford Bridge or going to Old Trafford, or do you know what I mean? It's not like something you can brag about. You know what I mean? I'll go to Oldwell every week. It's not as big as saying I'll go to Anfield every week. No, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think the passion's there.
You had to bring Chelsea up, didn't you? You had to bring Chelsea up, Craig.
You haven't faced that video out yet, so
I've not faced that video out yet, Craig.
So no, what I'm saying, the passion is there from all of them. I think Nariv has a passion for football. I think Julie has a massive amount of passion, especially for the women's side of the game, which I think she's been doing excellent at and getting some horrendous abuse that I think some people need to really look at themselves in the mirror and go, look, if that was my wife, daughter, mother, grandmother, would I look at your sense, right? Like I said, the passion's there. They need help. They need help, and they need to ditch this spreadsheet because, like I said, numbers on a graph and on a computer screen, I'm sorry, but they do not translate to real life. Just because somebody's a superstar in National League doesn't mean that they're going to mirror that up in League One. It don't work that way.
Stats mean no, do they sometimes, Craig? I mean, I'll just throw a stat at you. Barnsley's never lost a game that Smith has played in.
Well, I've had a message today on social media from a guy just talking and chatting. He's got 7 season tickets and he's not renewing.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, what does that say? There's nothing coming from the club to let supporters know where we stand, what's happening. All they see is, oh, another one not coming, another one not coming. It's all hearsay. Stendhal's not coming. We've lost out to Duff, who went to Huddersfield. And fans want security. They want to know what they're going to purchase with the money.
And I will just say as well on this whole manager thing, I think managers are getting really annoyed with head coaches. We're being offered head coach roles, right? Because they're basically saying, look, yeah, you're a manager, great. You've earned your stripes. You've gone through all these things, but as soon as you sign for us, you're a manager in name only. All we want you to do is do a coaching role. Just coach these players to be better so we can sell them. That's basically what you're saying to turn a manager to do. And I think a lot of managers now are saying, no, unless I can have an active role in choosing who we sign, the way we play, and formation we use, I am not going to be your manager, because they've gone through years of tactical, teachings and all this stuff just to get dropped back down to a coach role as soon as they get named manager.
Well, who wants to can be a puppet and say,
that's it, yeah.
He's playing, he's having 60 minutes, he's having that time. It's up to a manager to manage. That's what we love about football.
I'll bring him up again. Chelsea's doing the same thing. They've just sacked Mauricio Pochettino. Why? Because he wanted to go in. He wanted to have a say in transfers, and Bowley and Egbali and stuff. Wait, let him. They want another puppet in. So
Bowley's done really well with transfers so far.
No, yeah,
he's done fantastically with them transfers and contracts that he's been chucking about.
We could spend 1% of what they have.
I do think that I do think a coach coming in should have a good input into who we sign. But I honestly think that the days where a manager comes in as has total carte blanche and he just says, "Give me your money and I'll get all the players." We had it with Keith Hill, and he brought in a lot of players that weren't good enough.
I didn't say the only say. I said have some say in what transfers.
I hope you don't mean Jim McNulty and Tom Kennedy in that.
They're fantastic left backs there were.
Tom Kennedy.
I was there at Charlton when Tom Kennedy scored. Oh,
can't even mention Scott Wiseman, so I'm not going to mention him.
What, Gibraltar International, you mean?
There you go.
Top of the shop. No, I'm not going to be awful to him because he could get up that wing quickly and put a cross in. It was defensively, but it's far from being on his own with that. So I do think a manager, coach, call it what you want, head coach. Then that's what we've got. Call it head coach. They should have an input in what we need, and I hope that Neil Collins had some input in the transfers in January to shore up our defence. But then whoever did it messed it up. So he should have a say, and I hope he had. But it can't be carte blanche. It's got to be, for me. It's got to be a balance between the two. But you're right. You can't just, as Craig said, you can't just rely on a spreadsheet. You can't get better than talking to people and having scouts.
Well, we got
what players are like.
We got shut all the scouts. What I've heard is we've got some more coming in now. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But we got them all.
This current board did not get rid of the scouts. We know we got rid of the scouts, and it were a false economy. And if they're going to put that right, if that's what you've heard, they're going to put that right. Then that's a plus for them. So I'm glad if they do that, I'll give them a 5. So that's
saying this is last season for me. Because I said when the first announced the board changes, I said I'll give him 3 years, 3 years to show real change, and like I said, they've seen it not work now 2 seasons in a row.
Look on positive side though, Craig.
I wouldn't say last season didn't work. I think last season worked. We're just unfortunate more than else. There were 3. Ipswich had literally now Premier League. We're near enough the same side that we were against. And Plymouth had a worldie of a season, and we're just unlucky in playoff final against Wednesday. Like I wouldn't say we're a failure. I think not building on last season, failure.
Like you see the likes of Portsmouth did. They kept most of their players and just built upon it. So did Bolton. So did Peterborough. And what's the trend? They all played really well last season and what top teams. You've got to build on your success. And we just seem to get really high and then get stool kicked from under us every time.
We float through it. It'll be all right. We'll float through. There's never that.
See, but that's it. It's like it just seems like we get kicked down every time we get walking. You know what I mean?
Well, somehow be in top 6 though, end of next season. No one have a clue how, but we'll be.
I hope so, mate. Because the way at the minute, no manager, right, as squad has been decimated yet again, And I'm seeing nothing about people coming in. Apart from I've just read that Hurahan might come in as a player coach. So we'll see whether that happens or not.
I
But
think there's two things I want to pick up on though in terms of what we've mentioned so far. So I think the spreadsheet works, but only in tandem with, as you mentioned,
the eye
with
test.
someone to actually go and speak to the player, know about them. I do know someone who's quite high up at Liverpool, and that's how Liverpool still do it in that way. Of there's still people there, like seeing people's attitudes, seeing how they apply themselves during training, seeing what they're doing off season to make sure they're part of it. And you can tell with a team that which Klopp had built at Liverpool, of the attitude of that side is we'll run for a brick wall for you, and that's just the
It's
entire.
not just that, but for a player to, I mean, sometimes somebody physically can be dominant in their league just because they're physically stronger, but you'll not see that on a stat sheet. Like so.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to go hand in hand with them two things, which makes sense. The other thing is obviously, man, you can't, as you mentioned, you can't have someone come in and be like, I don't want them players. I need to go and build a new side. Then that doesn't work. Set the manager, and now you've got a squad that's got no direction and someone that come in. So, like you mentioned, there needs to be a balance then of sort of them three things of you can use the data to back it up, but everyone's got access to the same data. So unless you've got some model that's different to everyone else, because I know Brighton are somehow apparently like 4 or 5 years in front of everyone else in terms of recruitment, which is shown with the seasons that they've had recently and the signings of Matoma. And there's always seems to be a player when the
but also the fact
that comes in.
We can't really compare us to Brighton because they can go to international markets because they can sign international.
Oh no,
players.
I get that.
We're
I
not
get
that
that.
standard.
But like
they started from this position though. So
they did start from here, and also Brighton are still in front of the top 6 in terms of recruitment as well. They're like pound for pound.
They've got backups to every player in their starting 11.
And when you look at sort of Brighton compared to top 6, they're still signing players and finishing and having good seasons that, for like the size of club compared to where they're in the league, they're doing really, really well in terms of the recruitment and things like that. So I think
it's like losing De Zerbi, they've got McKenna lined up straight away. Exactly. Straight away. This is something we need to learn to do. You've got to have contingencies.
I think them three things though just need to work in tandem, and at the minute it's not. Of the signings needs to have an input from a manager as well. It can't just be entirely spreadsheet or entirely not without scouts looking at them, or at least getting the manager's opinion on if they're going to come in and play. And on the flip side of that as well, it needs to sort of have the overarching view of a director of football, because when that manager then moves on, either because no manager is going to be there forever, they're going to get sacked, or they're going to go and find a new job. There still needs that continuation and succession planning on that behalf, which I think is the thing that we keep having peaks and troughs with. Of you had last season really good squad, ripped to bits of it summer, somehow piecemeal something together last season, still finishing top 6. And then now we're back again we've lost 4 key players of last season that now need replacing. And also we need to go back 2 seasons to go and replace Mads Kitchen, Bobby Sommers, Brad Collins, because we've loaned a keeper for a season. So we've not got a first choice keeper.
We've also lost 5 key players without receiving a single penny.
I do feel, in that respect, I do feel a little that the board can't win. I mean, I'm with you, Craig. If you know that somebody's not going to sign a new contract, flog them. January, whatever.
Like I said, we could have easily got $500,000 for Kane, $500,000 for Devante Cole.
I think there's a 50-50 though with that, isn't there?
There is. So many people. Yeah. So many people were saying, "Oh, we'll flog them. Oh, we'll flog them. They'll all be gone in January. We'll flog them because that's what we do with Tim Pot. That's what we do." When they didn't, to try and get, because we were doing well up till then, and they bolstered it by the 2 defenders. So we've all said we were looking pretty decent in midfield, looking pretty decent up front. Defence were letting us down. So they bolstered that. So they did the right things with that. So they took the gamble and not cashing in, because they'd have got pelters for cashing in on those players, those 4 particularly that were playing regularly. They'd have got absolute pelters for it, and they didn't. They stuck it out to give us the best chance, and now they're getting pelters for not flogging them. So
Yeah.
it's hard. They
all-
can't win. I mean,
that
I
always-
think they should have flogged them. I think they
That
should have
always
flogged them.
reminds me of that season when we had Urian and Winall that went in
Yeah.
January, and it was like, oh, we're in around top 6, and it's like if you just keep this together, we might have a bash at Premier League here, or we might have a
But the
bash.
thing is,
playoff.
if you do flog them, right, there's also other teams doing the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Flogging players that are out of contract for them.
Yeah, I agree.
So we got
I
Conor
agree.
Grant in. I don't think he's as good as Kane, but he's not far off.
He didn't play enough for me.
Yeah, it really
Should have played
didn't.
more.
I
It should be part of that succession
liked
planning
him.
though as well, because it'd be a midfielder out, midfielder in, and
Exactly, that's
we'd
it.
start
Yeah,
to see that
you've
progression.
got to have plans for this because you never know when you're going to receive a big out like Kitchen. Complete. I mean,
Oh well, hang on a minute.
people were
Kitchen
getting
was
linked
not
with him.
leaving. Kitchen was not
weren't
leaving.
leaving.
Morial.
No.
That's it.
Kitchen
But the
weren't
thing
leaving.
is, people were speculating about him from the start of the window.
It came from the author's mouth 12 months ago from today at Edensby. He said he wasn't going anywhere, but he put wool over my eyes, didn't he? But going back to where we were on about second half of the season, I think it was Roberts what were big change. It was great up to Christmas. Then since he's come back after his injury, he wasn't the same player. And I think that would cost.
They were a massive shame. Right. I think we're just about exhausted the entire season because I feel like I'm reliving it now. And we've got Bolton to play
That's not
on
please.
Tuesday. Is how I'm feeling in a minute. So moving on to some more light-hearted bits. Let's look at his predictions from last season then. So Andy, you got 4 correct, actually. You've not done too bad. You had Pompey, Peterborough, us, Lincoln, Bolton, Exeter. That Exeter shout were a little bit wild. I'll be honest. I feel like you
/ Lincoln City.
Got to have a wild card.
Yeah,
Lincoln
I feel
City,
like that's a bit wild.
We were so close, me and Lincoln.
/ Lincoln
me,
City
Jake,
changed
Dom
that
and
way
Lincoln.
through season.
We were so close, me and Jake. So
to be
close.
fair, if they did, they'd already knocked us out, so they'd still got 4.
You said that, but I don't.
It's been no gain. Although you were the only one out of us 4 that actually got a team in the right position, as you predicted Portsmouth to win the league. So well done on that. Al, you got the most of us correct. You got 5 out of 6 of the top 6. So Derby, Pompey, Blackpool, us, Bolton, and Peterborough. So Blackpool letting you down there, big time for having a correct 6, but not one of them in the right place, which is actually quite impressive to say you got 5 out of 6, but not one in the right place.
We got promoted though.
Yeah, the auto. He got the autos right,
yeah.
didn't you, Al? Just wrong way around, but you got them. But the 2 autos, you got them spot on, mate.
Interesting.
Amazing, I thought.
We'll not talk about mine because mine's worst one out of us.
Shocking.
I think Bolton had them games in hand, and I still wish they did because I had them to win the league. Portsmouth second, Blackpool, Derby, Charlton, and Lincoln.
Where did you have us, Josh?
Oh, 10th? 8th. Maybe.
I know Bolton would crumble.
So realistically, I was absolutely gutted that Lincoln didn't sneak into top 6 and Ulster's out because I'd got 1 more correct and I'd also been a little bit closer in predicting where we'd finish. And Craig, you got 4 as well with Derby, Charlton, Blackpool, Bolton, Peterborough, and Portsmouth. So looking at that, you also got 4 correct and none in the right place. But you got 1 more than me. So well done. And well done to anyone else that predicted, because if you predicted, you've probably got more than me correct in the top 6. So yeah, that's where we are with that. Andy,
I've kept all the start of the season predictions from a number of people, Josh. So when this show goes up, I'll look through it all and I'll put the scores down.
Nice.
For everybody that's done it, I'll say how many they've all got. So.
Nice. What about the prediction competition?
Oh wow!
At the end of the season, you've got some stats for us. You've got some stats.
I've got some stats. My calculator, well, it's my phone really, but the calculator on my phone has been white hot. White hot, I'll tell you. Last season, my God, no wonder I look like this. We had 3,810 predictions in total. 3,800. And we had 250 predictors over the season, which were, more than a few. As far as winning, losing, I'll not tell you the numbers, but, considering we're talking about toxicity and, stop dragging people down. And I know some of it were like that. But out of the 3,800 predictions, 73% of the time, our predictors predicted a Barnsley win. 73% of the
Honestly
time.
thought you were going to say predicted a 2-1 win.
No, actually, I could have done stats on that, shouldn't I? Could have done that. For a draw, 14% said it's a draw, and 13% said we'd lose. I think the percent as the season went on, it were less than 30%, but it rose to 13%. I think it were a lot more positive, but gradually went downhill as the season progressed. So 73, so nearly 3/4 of predictions were for a 73% for a Barnsley win. So I know there were fingers crossed and all that, but and who wants to predict that your team is going to lose?
Oh no, I do. You can't lose then. You get some points in prediction league, and or we actually win.
You know, your dad's right. You're wrong. Your dad's absolutely right. And no, I'm glad your dad got you involved in Barnsley. I'm really glad, and that'll come out. As far as the leagues are concerned, the final mini league, you know, the fourth mini league of the season, were won by Chris Mann, which will please Tom. So well done, Chris.
Well done, Chris.
And he'd won by a couple of points from Robert Howard. And I were rooting for Robert, but Chris Mann did it. And I think Tom Webster were rooting for Robert as well, because Chris lives, we think, somewhere in Asia, so he's panicking about the postage.
I think it's Malaysia.
So he's panicking about the postage. So, but
Chris is one of my favourite people because he posts match highlights on Twitter, and that has really helped me some mornings when we've played away, and I'll just quickly go on his Twitter and look at the goals and go, "Oh, lovely finish, that wasn't it?" So, Chris, you are by far the most unsung hero for me on Sunday mornings.
I hope you're having a chicken dinner after this, Chris, because you deserve one, because you're a winner. As far as the season competition concerned, you know, so the predictions for the whole of the season, not for little bits and bobs of it. There's only one winner, only one real winner. And, you know, he's talking now. He's talking. Won it easily.
Points deduction for amount of 2-1s you picked.
Won it easily. If you predict 2-1 and we win 2-1, it's because you're good at predicting. We, despite some rubbish predictions over the last 6 weeks, I managed to cling on. I think everybody else were rubbish towards the end of the season. So, but we've got a tie for second place. A tie. So because although I'm the winner, let's make no mistake, I'm the winner. I'm not allowed to win. I'm not allowed the prizes, because even though I'm winner, I'm not allowed it. So a tie for second place to actually win the prizes. So it's a tie. So it's between RMB, that's his name, but his real name, isn't it, Matthew, is Matthew Baines. Matthew Baines RMB. He's won. And frighteningly, Big Kev Beardsall.
Oh.
Also known as the Guinea Pig Whisperer. He's done it as well. The joint second, or joint winners. Joint winners. So congratulations to them. And I don't know what prizes Tom's got in mind. I think there'll be some red all over stuff. I don't know what he's got in mind, but it ought to include some guinea pig feed. In my honest opinion.
Maybe that's what we should give Kevin instead.
Andy. Oh yeah, I'm sure you'd have fetched it up. Guinea pig feed. You know, red all over's brand.
Yeah.
That's what's
red
missing.
All over branded with plastic wrapping.
I'll get Tom on to. We'll get on to that.
Tom, when you're watching this back, just add that onto a Red All Over shop if you don't mind. Some guinea pig feed with our badge in it. That'd be great. So massive thank you to all of you who have commented, predicted, give your opinions, just got involved in the show, liked it, shared it on social media, everything you've done. We can't thank everyone enough for being involved in the show. We really massively appreciate it. It's a massive help for us. It helps us grow the shows, helps expand, and it allows us to bring better content as well. So massive thank you to you guys watching and getting involved as well. And also massive thanks to all the sponsors as well that have supported us throughout this season. Without their contributions, it would be very difficult to do this show. So thank you very much to all the sponsors as well that have supported us throughout the season. can't say thank you enough for that. So thank you very much.